Peace, peace, peace. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Assalamu alaikum. And welcome to another day to labor in the vineyard of the Most High with your brother. Another day to get in the word to see what the Most High got to serve. And we eating more knowledge of the true and living God. And seeing how consciousness is the link that takes us higher, higher. Higher places, higher dimensions, or lower places and lower dimensions. But consciousness is the link. Because the true and living God is the supreme consciousness that resides in all of creation. And even the angels and the entities on the other side cannot perceive and understand the supreme. All right. The supreme is that glorious that no being that's created can comprehend it. All they can do is continuously elevate in whatever position they done been put in to draw closer. That's how you know we done been tricked. And we're going to see as we go through the lesson that when you start following the true and living God, your life started to change. Your mind started to change. Your understanding, your perspective, and your spiritual growth and development all start to change. The material possessions ain't what do it for you. All right? The churches, the mosques, all them, they get all these material things to make it look like they being blessed. But their spiritual consciousness and understanding ain't nowhere. So really and truly, they not being blessed because they ain't connect with the true and living God. Alright, the true and living God will elevate your spiritual awareness, discernment, and your spiritual consciousness to where you see through all of the lies of the matrix. Alright, as you keep going, you start to see more and more. And more of the veil is lifted. Alright? That's why we stay going through spiritual texts and pointing out spiritual things so that we can grow spiritually. Because that's really the only way to chase after the true and living God. Is to elevate your consciousness. Alright? All these ox out here, all these brothers teaching people about their God this and their God gonna do that and their God mad and their God jealous and their God gonna destroy these folks. Them the false gods of the world. Alright? The true and living God connects his people because they connected through a higher consciousness, which gets them away from the duality like we seen in the last lesson. While Brother Jesus said Maya, the veil, the deception, the cosmic delusion is the devil. That's the enemy. Because that would make you think you separate from the light. Alright, and once you separate from the light, you start to form gods after your own image. With feelings and emotions and vengeance and all them other things. But the true and living God ain't got nothing but the fruit of the Spirit. Ain't got nothing but the fruit of the Spirit. Anything else is false. Oh, let's eat. Let's eat. We're going to go into the keys. And then we're going to bust out some of the other books of the keys that we ain't been used yet collectively. Alright? We want to keep growing up here. We not worried about taking back over the world from the Gentiles and them getting us all this stuff back and all that. Because that ain't what the words say. Alright? It ain't what the words say. So why I'm gonna concern myself with all that? They can have all that. It gonna get took regardless, but nah. My focus is not on getting back the land from the Gentiles and them giving us back all they took from us. Nah. We're going to see we preparing through the lesson. Don't nobody talk about the return of the entities, the return of the brotherhood, which is the return of Jesus, of Yahshua. It's the ETs and the chariots returning out the sky. All right? Ain't gonna be no Negroes taking back over the world from the Gentiles to set up Babylon 3.0, because that's all that will happen. Because the majority of these Negroes got nothing but carnal understanding, which means it's going to be just like the Old Testament when Negroes set up Babylon the first time. Then the Gentiles had their time to come set up Babylon 2.0. And then Negroes think that they going to take back the world from the Gentiles with a Gentile state of mind and going to set back up Babylon 3.0. Nah, that ain't in the scriptures. That's not what the scriptures say. The scriptures say after it's destroyed this time, it's going to get transformed. All right. So let's see. We're going to start on page 46. Page 46 in the keys. Key 105. Halfway down in verse 20. We're going to start right here so that we can put this thing together. All right. The special species, the Israelites, the starseeds, who were to be the pyramid builders of consciousness. The pyramid builders of consciousness. For the name of Yahweh, to lead the nations of man away from the false gods of this world. To lead the nations of men away from the false gods of this world. And when we out here teaching like the Gentiles and the churches and the camps about these gods made in our image with their feelings and emotions and wanting to do this, that, and the third, nah, we not doing what we supposed to do. What the word say that we supposed to do right here. We supposed to lead the people away from all those gods that separate and divide and destroy. Because them false gods, the true and living, only want you to raise your consciousness, which you only can do that through renewing your mind, spiritualizing your life, your understanding, your perspective. All right? And as you grow spiritually, then you can connect with the true and living God. And the brotherhood, the entities, will start to upgrade your mind back to how it was, so that you can connect back to your Adam man light body when they return. All right? But anything that's not guiding you back to the light and elevating your consciousness, that's a false god. If they talking about our God gonna come do this, that, and the third, and against these people and against them people, and want these people to do that, nah, that's a false god. The true and living God want everybody to spiritually grow and elevate your consciousness, which that's the only thing that's going to unite you and separate, get rid of all of the separation. Because spiritually, as you become one, then all the other veils start to fall. So that's the job of the true lights, the spiritual lights. That's the job, that's the mission, to get the people away from the false gods. The special species, the Israelites, who were to be pyramid builders of consciousness for the name of Yahweh, the true and living God. Pause. Let's go to Deuteronomy. Let's read this precept right quick. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God had chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. And at this time, right here in Deuteronomy, won't no Gentiles out here running around controlling stuff? Nah. All right. He was talking about the spiritual children. All right, the spiritual Israel is who he was referring to as a special people. All right, the star seeds, not all of the Negroes on the planet, because at that time the majority of almost all of the planet weren't nothing but Negroes, weren't nothing but colored people, melanated people. All right, Gentiles didn't come on the scene until later on, which they descended from us. All right. The three bloodlines, when the three sons of Noah represent three bloodlines, Shem carried the original bloodline from Seth. That's why Yahshua came through the lineage of Shem. All right, Shem carried the original bloodline from Seth that was pure and undefiled. All right, the Hamite bloodline that was defiled. The Japheth bloodline, that's the bloodline that the Gentile nations came through. All right, so symbolically, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Shem, the original bloodline. Ham is still a melanated bloodline, but it's mixed. Japheth also got a mixed bloodline, but that's the bloodline that the Gentiles came through. All right, so symbolically, that's what them three stand for. That's why you always hear the Israelite camps talking about we come from Shem, we don't come from Ham. Yeah, but that not including all of the so-called Negroes. All right, all Negroes is not the same. It's bloodlines that separated them. All right, and bloodlines carry consciousness. Oh, we're gonna see that in I don't think I included it in this lesson, but we'll put it in another one. All right. So the star seeds, who were to be pyramid builders of consciousness for the name of Yahweh, to lead the nations of man away from the false gods of this world, as the gathering of the 12 sparks into the brotherhood of light. All right, let's go to page 553. Page 553. Verse 96. I saw how these selected ones of the celestial seed were to be a people of light who could connect different mental and spiritual vibratory channels of knowledge in order to teach all nations the unity of the living God. The living God. Metatron explained to me how Israel, as the spiritual Israel, was an instrument used to infuse the nations of the world with the light vibrations. Which could raise their consciousness to a living and reigning godhood with Yahweh. Alright, so the goal was to raise the consciousness. Now go to page 267. Page 267, verse 42. Know then that the brotherhood of light has been appointed to speak unto you concerning these matters of consciousness liberation. Not physical carnal liberation, not being free from under the yoke of white folks, but consciousness liberation. For now is the very time to offer up our souls unto the altars of consciousness transfiguration. The keys to these thresholds of holiness are found within this book of Enoch, which has been revealed during this consciousness era for the unlocking and the revealing of the wisdom of all ages for all time and forever. Therefore, O brethren of light, do listen to this entreaty and understand that we had the day of resurrection at hand. We had the day of resurrection at hand. And that we must all be prepared to enter into the arms of our brothers when they descend. When they descend in flames and in great rushes of glory to collect us. This is what you see on Independence Day and E.T. and all them movies. The chariots returning. Oh, let's get a precept. Let's get a precept. All right, we're not thinking about taking the land and the world back over from the Gentile. Nah. Most I say, code your consciousness so that when your brothers and sisters return in the chariots, you can be prepared to roll with them. Oh, we've been tricked. 2 Kings, chapter 2, verse 11. And it came to pass, as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire, and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder, parted the people asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. Elijah went up in the chariot. Elijah was like E.T. And the chariot came back and scooped him up. He didn't die. All right. Elijah got scooped up. Elijah had a pure consciousness, and he was on a whole nother level. Even Yahshua said there was none greater than John the Baptist, none among men. And we know that John was Elijah. All right. We seen in the lesson on Elijah and Elisha. All right. All the things that Elijah taught Elisha. All right. There was none greater. Elijah told them, come on, scoop them on up. So we are to prepare our consciousness in that same way. So that when they return, as the chariots are popping up more and more at this time, but when they make themselves known to the world, that they back, like on the Independence Day in the movies, that those that didn't prepare themselves had nothing to worry about. But the religions and the camps and all them, they not talking about none of this information. All right? The entities had not revealed it to them because of their limitations or their hardness of heart, or they're not willing to believe in the word. And with your non-belief in the word will not allow certain scriptures to be revealed to you. All right? Let's go back to page 48. Let's get another precept. Let's go to page 48. All right? Page 48. I'm gonna read 45 again, then I'm gonna go to the one on 48. Therefore, O brethren and sisters of light, do listen to this entreaty and understand that we have the day of resurrection at hand, and that we must all be prepared to enter into the arms of our brothers when they descend in the chariots of glory to collect us. Page 48, verse 54. At intervals of every 6 to 12,000 years, the celestial lords of light gather the cultivated star seeds that have evolved after being left by the original Adamic guardians, who were activated to direct the progeny of the earth. At this point in our consciousness time zone, the celestial lords of light will come back. At this point in our consciousness time zone, the celestial lords of light will come back by order of the galactic command in Orion, which governs many universes, to save the Adamic seed. They will deliver their seed. Pause. Alright, so now you can see how the Gentiles, they tricked up these scriptures, even the keys. Because in the keys, they like to talk about the Adamic species. But half of the time, it should be the Adamic race. And this one of the verses right here, where you can see how it connect with the Bible and the Book of Mormon and all the others that talk about we was different. Us and the Gentiles are not the same people, even though the Gentiles can be joined to us in spirit. But we are the original seed. We are the Adamic race. The Gentiles is not the Adamic race. The Adamic race came with the planet. The Gentiles cannot bear being in the sun and had to create ways to protect themselves from the sunlight, which lets you know that they was not an original creation that came with the planet. And that's not no knock to the Gentiles, it's just the truth. All right? We didn't have no skin cancer or none of that stuff that you put on to protect your skin from the sun. We didn't have all that stuff, sunscreen and all that mess. Nah, we indigenous to the planet. The same way animals don't get skin cancer. Negroes didn't used to get it until they started eating the craziest things that the Gentiles eat and mixing with the Gentiles and all of that. Then their DNA started to change. All right? But this just showing right here how we are the Adamic seed. All right? And verse 56 makes it clear. The lords of light, the brotherhood and the chariots, they would deliver their seed in the seed of the other nations. The seed of the other nations, meaning the Gentiles in them. All right? All them nations are Gentiles that are not the original seed. All right? But those who are grafted in among us spiritually, they'll be saved also. All right? But this is just an example of how in this book sometimes they talk about the Adamic species when really it should just say the Adamic race. But they try to make it seem like all of us are one. But that's not true according to the word. At this point in our consciousness time zone, the celestial lords of light will come back by order of the galactic command in Orion, which governs many universes, to save the Adamic seed. They would deliver their seed in the seed of the other nations, who wish to be coded into the galactic tree of living light, in the paradise mansion worlds of the Father. Alright. Let's keep eating. Page 443. Page 443. Verse 23. Halfway down. However, from the standpoint of higher spiritual reality, it is only consciousness. It is only consciousness which separates man from God. It is only consciousness which separates man from the light. This is why the first precept that we read, the Israelites were to be pyramid builders of consciousness, because that's the only way to connect with the true and living God. However, from the standpoint of higher spiritual reality, it is only consciousness which separates man from God or the light, and the realization that the divine template is only on the other side of light, directly within man's presence at all times. When the human mind receives events outside of its physical time frame of reference, it will perceive the presence of a second world, which is operating faster than the conventional physical brain processes. All right, again, when the human mind receives events outside of its physical time frame of reference, speaking on visions that you receive up here, all right, in the astral realm, in the spiritual realm, it will perceive the presence of a second world, which is operating faster than the conventional physical brain processes. Therefore, it will see how our physical world is within a time lag subordinate to high-speed events taking place in the second world or in the other realm. All right? When time events take place in this realm, they're behind time they already did pass in the other realm. This second world, this other realm, shapes the conventional brain processes through time waves which are used by the conventional brain to recall memory, to capture events, and to participate in the thought structure of parallel worlds of intelligence. 27. In actuality, this higher consciousness mind, this high spiritual mind, operates through the divine worlds, which in turn affects the physical worlds through consciousness image programs of light sequences, which are not limited to time differences. There's no starting, stopping. All of that is a continuous cycle in the astral realm. Past, present, and future are one. All right. Whereas in our realm, there's a time, like it says, a time lag. It's a difference in time. All right. And we're going to see that that got something to do with deja vu as we go into the other book. Because these two worlds, the two dimensions, the third dimension and the fourth dimension, that's what it's talking about. The second world will be the fourth dimension. All right. And the first one will be the 3D, the physical world. All right. But as you become more spiritual, more consciousness, you can alter the third dimensional world through your fourth dimensional consciousness. All right. The self-realized mind can then modulate time differences. The self-realized mind, meaning the mind that knows it's not the flesh, but the mind that realizes it is consciousness. It is a child of light. The self-realized mind can then modulate time differences to step in and out, like we see on the movies. To step in and out of multiple realities between the physical world and the spiritual world, between the third dimension and the fourth dimension, out of which the third dimension, physical reality, is created. The connection between the spiritual and physical programs is through a consciousness blueprint or template, which interfaces with the seeds of light coming from the spiritual worlds of thought, to form the seeds of material form unfolding within the physical layers of creation. Pause. All right. So we're going to go to page 38 for a precept, but remember in lessons how we didn't show that everything that was created through the mind. Everything in creation that we can see and behold was created through the mind. And it came from the fourth dimension into the third dimension. Whether it came from your own mind or from the mind of your guide or from one of the righteous entities or the wicked entities. All right, because all of your thoughts don't belong to you. We're going to see as we go through the lesson. Consciousness speaks to your spirit and your soul through all different levels that we don't realize. All right, because there's spirits all throughout creation that you can see as far as animals and plants. They all have spirits within them too. But those spirits give off a vibe. There's consciousness within all of the things that we can see, just like ourselves, all of the natural things. There's consciousness within water. All right? But let's keep going. Let's keep going. It's going to make sense. If it don't make sense, it's going to make sense. All right? A precept, page 38, verse 34. With this explanation, man can see how his consciousness mind receives continuous communication within the brain from all forms of conscious relativity, meaning all forms of relative consciousness, all consciousness forms. With this explanation, man can see how his conscious mind receives continuous communication from all forms of relative consciousness in our consciousness zone where we are, which pulsate thought forms, through a thinking light cell by photoamplification of light crystals. All right, but all we want to see right here is how our consciousness mind is continuously receiving communication. All right. It's not just entities, it's other things in creation. So again, the connection between the spiritual and physical programs is through a consciousness blueprint or template, which interfaces with the seeds of light coming from the spiritual worlds of thought to form the seeds of material forms unfolding within the physical layers of creation. It is through the photon bundles that the seed forms are transplanted. All right, and photons are many as in M-I-N-I. All right, small particles, the smallest particles of light that carry energy. All right, photons are small particles of light that carry energy. It is through the photon bundles that the seed forms are transplanted from the consciousness template into the energy grids that are used to activate the physical layers of creation. Essentially, there are many templates connecting physical and consciousness layers of reality. There are many templates, many dimensions connecting physical and consciousness layers of reality. Let's eat more on that. We're going to go into the first light picture superscript. All right? Because there's a few of them. This is the first one. I know you can see it, but the first light picture superscript. This is key. This will be key 401. Alright, see what I say, the first light picture superscript. This key 401. These some of the additional keys of Enoch. So we're going to go to page 55. Starting at verse 126. In our 4D realm, consciousness expands towards a ground state, yet originates from extensions or layers of dimensions coded from the original blueprint, generated from the principles of light. 127. Dimensions are energy states defined by a band or octave of frequency or vibration guided by consciousness. So again, dimensions, the different dimensions that you can go in and out of are energy states defined by vibrations guided by consciousness. So your consciousness can take you in and out of different dimensions. That's why people that use certain drugs, they operating in a different dimension. Them drugs take their consciousness to a lower or higher dimension. And that's why some of them psychotic drugs will have you spaced out. Because, like we see right here, dimensions are energy states defined by vibrations guided by your consciousness. So if you take some mind-altering drugs that alter your consciousness, it can take you to a different dimension. Alright? even when you go to sleep, you can go to a different dimension, but the fact that your body is still your body connected to your spirit, that's how you can wake up sweating like you done did some real work. If you done had a scary dream or something, all right? There's different dimensions that your consciousness can take you to. Dimensions can be defined as having both space-time and areas of unique consciousness existence beyond space-time unfoldment, beyond this 3D time frame that the flesh operates in. All right, so your consciousness can take you to a dimension that your flesh can't go in, but it may appear you in your flesh because you have a spiritual body. All right, let's keep going. 129. All matter in each sun universe is part of emanated extensions of consciousness. Like we just said, everything that you see in this sun universe came forth from consciousness. All matter in each sun universe is part of emanated extensions of consciousness. Photons as quanta. Pause. Let's get the definition of quanta for those who may not know. It's in the back of the keys. We want the first definition. The irreducible, meaning the smallest component of electromagnetic radiation, light of any wavelength or frequency, ranging from gamma rays, X-rays, ultraviolet light, and visible light through infrared radiation and radio rays. All right? So what it's saying, quanta is the smallest component, the smallest particle. So what it's saying right here, photons as quanta, as the smallest components of light, become the carriers of the consciousness coding in our zone. At the beginning of the physical process of our immediate galactic playground, because it's the playground for spirits, various entities, as well as the flesh. We are not alone. At the beginning of the physical, the carnal, the temporal process of our immediate galactic playground, the Elohim introduced a coordinated matrix of light that creates wavelengths of light. And you see what it says, from light, from higher light on down to the smallest particles of light, which are the photons. Establishing the various fields from other dimensions into our three-dimensional space. All right, the whole matrix is connected. The 3D is connected to the 4D, but the 4D manifests through the 3D. The 3D is to be elevated to one day go back into the 4D. All right, or into another 3D space, eventually on another planet. All right, once this one is transformed. All right, if you don't have the code to keep you here due to your high vibration. All right. 132. An individual sun universe, in addition to having a multiplicity of multiverses. An individual sun universe, in addition to having a multiplicity of multiverses, also has many consciousness time zones. Verse 232. We perceive time in a linear fashion. All right, like a line. That's how we perceive time, as here to there to there to there. All right, that's linear, just going one way. We perceive time in a linear fashion because our physical existence is within a time sequence coded by our consciousness. Perceiving physical matter, but time is more of a field that intersects with three-dimensional matter, which in reality is also a field. Depending on the forces surrounding us, time can speed up or slow down. All right. There's stories about people that done got abducted and people that done got, and when I say abducted, I'm talking about abducted and placed on chariots, all right, and then had contacts with the so-called extraterrestrials, and they'll tell you how the time is different. It's a different time space. I used to watch all of them shows because I was one of the people that just was obsessed with ETs and abductions and UFOs, and I used to watch all them shows when I was younger or whatnot. And it's like I always found that fascinating. All of them would report how it, just like when you can go to meditation and it feel like you there for an hour or so or 2 hours, but in actuality in 3D time it might have only been 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but it's the same effect. All right, depending on the forces surrounding us, the consciousness time zone, basically, time can speed up or slow down. Currently, we believe we function within one space and time set. It is true that time was created as a housing for matter. All right, and that's why you can't be believing how the Gentiles have taught us that the earth has been around for millions of years and all evolution, all that mess that they teach, which is just lies or whatnot. Nah, it was a time limit set on this thing right here. That's why you read in some of these books about the sun starting to do different things now, because it was a time limit set on the sun too, to where it was a certain amount of time given for man to go down here through his different incarnations before this time frame right here was up to transform this planet, and then it's on to the next. And if you don't get included in those that ain't got coded or sealed, like it say in Revelations, to remain here going through the transformation, then you got a good set somewhere to start all over again, because you refuse to put in work through all your incarnations. All right. It is true that time was created as a housing for matter. And you see right here, it say bodily form as well as stars. All right, stars have time limits just like the body of the flesh. And in some cases, a set place for consciousness to evolve, which I was shown is a consciousness time cell or zone, but we are not restricted by it. So not just space, but also time is associated with consciousness. And that consciousness is both part of the infinite mind and that of the species, which has an intricate role to play in the evolutionary plan. Time as a field of experience also exists in other dimensional realities. Time as a field of experience also exists in other dimensions, which is why we experience deja vu. All right, and remember, we just read how dimensions come from states of consciousness, and that there are many dimensions within this realm that we exist in. All right, that's what we read out the other book of the keys. All right, and like it said right here, due to time, and remember how we said there's a time lag in the 3D realm, in this realm. All right, time as a field of experience also exists in other dimensions, which is why we experience deja vu. In this dimension, we exist in linear time, but in other dimensions, there is all time, and changes to our timeline can also occur from working within these higher dimensions. And remember, Like we seen in the lessons on the overself. We are multi-dimensional beings. Alright? So there's an aspect of us that can be operating in another dimension. Because we multi-dimensional beings. Your overself body has different aspects to it. Alright? Remember the lessons we did on the overself. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. When this world was created, the B'nai Elohim and the B'nai Or. Pause. Let's get the definition for them, for those who don't know. Alright? You can experience something in the dream realm and later on experience it in your 3D realm. You would just, something lets you know that this situation is funny. I done did this right here before, or I done talked to this person, or I done met this person before, or this sequence of events. I done went through it. That deja vu, those dimensions. That's where deja vu come from. All right, it's the 4D and the 3D tied together, but it then occurred. It's just your conscious vehicle, the 3D body, can't necessarily place when it happened. But it has then happened in an alternate dimension. Crazy as it may sound, these movies be real. B'nai Elohim, alright? The sons of the creator gods. Alright, so we were not the only creation of the Elohim. They created other entities to govern, alright, other entities to also govern the world down here. The B'nai Elohim, which we got a lesson coming up on them too. It just haven't been given to me to bring it out yet, but we're going to do a lesson on them too, and that's going to help better understand how angels come down and do things with men that alter their existence, because they also got free will. Alright, which we think that all entities on the other side are programmed just like animals, but that's not true. They got free will to do what they supposed to do or not do what they supposed to do also, just like us. Alright, the B'nai Elohim, the sons of the created gods, who dispatch judgment and hierarchical education in the absence of power in the lower heavens, down here. These paradise sons work with the derivative systems of creation. They choose the selected seed, which is transplanted from imperfect creation to levels of divine spirits. The B'nai Or, sons of light, the guiding intelligence working with the Elohim. The guiding intelligence working with the Elohim. And the masters of the 70 brotherhoods. They have the capacity to externalize and materialize in those dimensions which have been previously seeded and administered by the brotherhoods of light. Remember the Bible verse that says be careful, because you never know when you entertaining angels. Alright, and like it said right here, the B'nai Or had the ability to externalize and materialize in those dimensions, meaning they can take on an appearance of flesh and bone in the dimensions which have been previously seeded and administered by brotherhoods of light. Alright? And I know I done talked to a few people that say they done had experiences where they done ran across what they think to be angels, because they'll talk to them, or the angels, the person will give them a message, and next thing they know, they turn around and they gone. So we see right there, the B'nai Or, it is possible for them to materialize just to possibly give you a message or to save you from something, and next thing you know, you go back to turn around and they gone. Alright, back to 241. When this world was created, the B'nai Elohim and B'nai Or and all the sons and daughters of light in other dimensions, that includes the Adam Kaiman, all right, those that was placed on the land, were also created to manifest within the various multiverse realms of this sun universe. These governing creations make use of the codes of life to maintain and develop their realms. Alright, so the B'nai Elohim and the B'nai Or are to develop in the unseen realm. The Adam Kaiman was sent to develop the seen realm, alright, the 3D realm. But it says, both of them, these governing creations, because the B'nai Elohim, the B'nai Or, and the Adam Kaiman was created to govern or to have dominion. These governing creations make use of the codes of life to maintain and develop their realms. Alright, let's go to the second light picture superscript to get a precept. Alright. Let me see this one. This will be key 402. See, this is the second light superscript. So this will be key 402. We're gonna go to page 145. Page 145. So we see that the Adam Kaiman was sent to govern this realm. And that's why in the Bible it says, and we created them and gave them dominion. Gave them dominion. All right, in the last lesson, we seen the Adam Kaiman was created, male and female. All right, page 145, verse verse 522. In fact, the role of Adam and Eve in the midst of the Gan Eden, meaning the Garden of Eden, was to manage the chaos and separation in the local experimental realms. So there remains the possibility that the fall was a fall into lower consciousness. The fall was a fall into lower consciousness realms as an enigmatic or mysterious attempt to upgrade the consciousness energy in these local realms. Go back to page 91. Verse 305. Finally, in terms of our own planetary system, we, as the Adamic race, not the Adamic species, because all of us won't sit here together, the Adamic race came to this planet as a colony to update and help. Remember we did lessons out the keys where the Adam Kaiman was sent here, all right? We didn't originate on the planet Earth. The Negro exists on multiple dimensions. We're going to see as we keep going, all right? But that's why they try to include themselves when they rewrite our scriptures to make it seem like they was here the whole time. And in this second light picture superscript, they got their own faces all through this book. And it's disturbing, but that's what the Gentiles do. All right, I remember one brother told me that he threw away the keys the first time he had it because he said the pictures was just the pictures. The pictures did something to it. I completely understand. But that's a way of consciousness coding for them. But they try to include themselves in all of our stuff. But they are not the Adamic race. All right. Finally, in terms of our own planetary system, we, as the Adamic race, came to this planet as a colony to update and help. But our presence here in this universe was a far away from our original position of consciousness and to this universe's reality. All right? 307. The Adamic image is not just found on planet Earth. All right? And that's not speaking on the humanoid image. Nah, the image of the Negro, the melanated man and woman. The Adamic image is not just found on planet Earth, but exists in various spheres throughout the universe. Example, the distant planet Meteon and planetary star systems connected with Orion, the Pleiades, Sirius, Perseus, etc. Alright? And let's go back to the other keys. Alright? Because if you didn't study where you see where they talk about the pyramids on Mars and how they see things on the pyramids on Mars that look just like the things that they see on the pyramids in Giza, they slowly reveal the truth that they see our images when they look to these different planets through these high-powered microscopes that they've been given. All right? Our image is all around this system. Verse 242. It is within their power, the Benai Elohim, the Benai Or, and the Adam Kadmon. It is within their power of consciousness to create souls and their accompanying life forms for existence in these realms. All right, in the last lesson, we seen where the original procreation was through consciousness. All right, it wasn't through having sex, it was through consciousness. Alright, after the fall, you had to procreate the other way. But that's in the last lesson we did. So this is lining up with what we read in the last lesson, in the other book. Alright? It is within their power of consciousness to create souls and their accompanying life forms for existence in these realms, including material manifestations, which are their emanation counterparts from higher, mid, and local dimensional worlds. The fifth day thus affirms the various life forms that will be found throughout the universe, based on soul formations such as winged creatures and water-based intelligences, some of which will live in other planetary environments, such as methane or ammonia, all of which are part of the consciousness experimental creations of this local universe. Within each universe, there are various hierarchical intelligences that are also created. Let's go to Genesis. Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, verse 19. In the evening and morning were the fourth day. And the Elohim said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that have life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And the Elohim created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters bore forth abundantly after their own kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. In the entities, the Elohim, the Benai Elohim, the Benai or the Adam Kadmon saw that it was good. And the Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. In the evening and the morning were the fifth day. All right? So that's the difference when you see Genesis 1, everything was being created by the Elohim. All right, up until the point where they created the Adam Kadmon in verse 26 and 27. But the Adam Kadmon also had the ability to create. All right, but the Elohim and the Benai Elohim and the Benai Or also had the power to create souls. And if you go to Genesis 2, verse 1, it says, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. All right, so that's showing Genesis 1 was all of the spiritual creations. Everything was created spiritually before it was created physically on the earth. All right. Let's keep going. It'll make sense. Verse 263. We must keep in mind that consciousness is not limited to the mind of an individual. Consciousness is not limited to the mind of an individual, but is part of the holistic, meaning the whole and complete field that originates in the garden, Gan Eden, that houses many different trees for the propagation of the designs of life. Creative consciousness takes on forms also in realms of duality, creating gender in the experimental worlds. Alright, even plants are masculine and feminine, along with animals and other things. Alright. For this reason, the 5th and 6th day are divided. The 5th exemplifies the basic organization of life connected with soul manifestation. In the 6th, the multidimensional system, which is brought forth to maintain and assist in the evolution of souls, including animal souls, introduced on the 5th day. Alright? In the 6th day, the Adam Cad mind was created. But on the 5th day, the Elohim, like we just read, created all the winged animals and the other animals in the water and everything. Alright? So it's kind of showing us the order of creation spiritually. Alright? But like we see, consciousness is the key. Consciousness is the key that links all of creation, that links the 3D world with the 4D world, to where we can bring forth from the 4D world to create or empower or change the carnal realm. Alright? That's how, as you grow in consciousness, the so-called powers increase. Because the powers come from consciousness. And consciousness allows you to have control over the flesh and eventually control over the elements, which the elements are tied to the flesh, because the flesh was created from the dust of the earth, which dust is symbolic of the elements. Earth, air, fire, water, and whatever other one I'm missing, they all are inside of the body. And when your consciousness elevates, when we think of control the elements, we thinking of control the elements outside of us. But no, as you learn to control the elements within you through your consciousness, then you're able to affect the elements outside of you. Alright? Because all of the dimensions are connected through consciousness. So as we get in tune with the true and living God, our consciousness increases, and thereby our abilities and our understanding increase. And we are able to work with the spirit and the entities on the other side of the veil, so that we can help transform our brothers and sisters down here, as well as elevate the earth to this new vibration that's approaching. Alright? Peace.